So, hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fixate Binge podcast, but this one's special to me. This is the first episode of 2026. As I discussed in my episode last week, we had 50 episodes of the Fixate Binge podcast in only 52 weeks. So that means that I didn't have a lot going on my weekends. I was mostly doing the podcast, but it also actually can underscore the fact that there wasn't a lot of family tragedies or family events that demanded that I cancel or postpone an episode. And so for that, knock on wood, that was quite nice. And if we enjoy the same type of good fortune in 2026, all the better. But I'm so grateful to have another great year in front of us. 2026 is going to be a very, very exciting year. I wanted to talk very quickly about a couple things. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you something. I came across a quote. I've read this quote many times, but some things that you read, some poems, even some movies or scenes, some things that you come across, it'll strike you differently. And I think that has everything to do with where you're at in life. And I came across a quote by Pablo Picasso, who said, "The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away." And I really ascribe to that. Now, I'm not trying to say that podcasting is my purpose in life, but it's one of the purposes that brings me joy. And I have a lot of joy giving it away. If that's probably the best way to put it. I think it might be the best way to put it. I am not making money doing this. This podcast is not monetized. It would be nice if it was. But that's just icing on the cake. The cake is where this thing is at. And I love doing this. I love doing this every week. And when I stop loving to do it, I will stop. Because if my heart's not in it, then I don't think I can fake it. And so if you're tuning in every week, and some of you are, which is so appreciated. If you're tuning in every week, just know that a lot of love goes into every one of these episodes. A lot of love, a lot of care. But there's, behind all of that is the sacrifice of others. I'm not the only person sacrificing doing this. My family, they rearrange their schedules. They sacrifice their availabilities and things to maneuver around my podcast recording schedule. So I appreciate them. But anyway, welcome to 2026. I have had quite an auspicious but very amazing start to 2026. I don't want to get too much into it because I don't really get into personal things here, but I've known most of my life that my mother remarried not long after my father and her divorced when I was about 5 years old. And my mother remarried and began a family with her second husband. And from that family were produced 4 half siblings. I had met 2, I believe, and that was about 30 years ago. I met about 2 of them in the 90s, mid 90s, I think, mid to late 90s. Well, social media connects us, doesn't it? And I have been in contact with one of my brothers who lives in Oregon, and something kind of nice happened. He decided to take a road trip. He's into forestry. He's into the great outdoors. That's part of his vocation. And he wanted to see the sequoias, the giant sequoias that we have here in California, which you really can't get anywhere else in the world. So he wanted to come down, and then he surprised me by bringing my other brother. So I have had the pleasure of spending time with 2 brothers I have never spent much time with at all. One of the 2 brothers I had never met at all. So that was my weekend, was meeting new family and getting to know some flesh and blood, which was really, really cool. I don't know if I was the best host. I tried to do my best, but I had a great time walking around the giant sequoias up here in the Sierra Nevadas. Despite the fact that it was pissing rain, it was still a great experience and to spend time in their company. And I hope that if you're listening to this, that over the holidays, over the Christmas break, that you had an opportunity to spend time with people you love and people whose company you care about. What a great way to start the year. I think that's a positive note for all of us. So while the rest of the world might seem to be falling apart in certain places, and I don't want to get into what's going on in Venezuela and what the latest stupefying thing the Trump administration's doing, let's keep it positive. And by positive, I mean hopeful. And by hopeful, I mean this is the first episode of 2026, and I'm excited to talk about what's coming out. But before I do that, I want to introduce you to someone special to me who happens to be the world's greatest Stranger Things fan. So here she is. So, as promised, I have the world's biggest Stranger Things superfan, and this is exclusive. She has never, ever given another podcast an interview on her love, her lifetime love of all things the Duffer Brothers from Netflix's Stranger Things. And so I have the privilege of giving my daughter, Amelie, who happens to be how old?
11.
11. That's got to be a coincidence, right? Is that a coincidence? Okay, 11 years old. And she's going to tell us a little bit about why she loves this show. First of all, how many times have you watched this show?
Last time I checked, it was like maybe 10. I'm not sure.
So each season you've just watched it over and over again?
Yeah.
My goodness. Okay. So right off the bat, we've had 5 years with Stranger Things. Can you tell me what your favorite character of all time in Stranger Things is?
Okay, I want to at least name 3. My first favorite is Will. My second one is 11. My third one is Derek.
And that's Derek from the 5th season, right?
Yeah.
Boy, my image keeps coming in and out. Wow. Why did you like Derek so much?
Funny clips of him, and like there was like cute little scenes where like hugs Steve and where like waves nicely and smiles at Mike, and it's just really sweet.
That's really cool. Yeah, Derek was really fun. He, as one of the supporting characters, he was kind of the breakout star of the 5th season. I agree. I think Derek was really funny. He had so many great comedic moments in the show. Can you tell me what makes Stranger Things so much better than the other shows you watch?
It's just like most of the episodes like end on like a cliffhanger, and that makes me like, oh, I want to watch this like over and over. I want to watch all the episodes again because I get to see all the cool stuff again.
Yeah, that's so good, and that usually means it's just such good writing that the creators of the show have they've created some really compelling and interesting characters for the show, right? Well, can you tell me before I let you go, Amelie? Can you tell me what was your scariest moment of the show?
Like this wasn't like a scary, but it was like scary as in like I was so nervous I was scared. But like it was when it was the last episode of Stranger Things season 5, and it was when 11 sacrificed herself, and yeah, that got me a little nervous because like I just so nervous I was scared because like everyone was screaming, and it just got me like nervous and scared.
That's good. That's good. And yeah, that's a bit of a spoiler, but come on, you have no excuse. If you're a Stranger Things fan, you've had plenty of time to watch the final episodes. Yeah, that was a bit of a scary scene. I really enjoyed your enthusiasm for this show. I mean, there's not a lot of event television in our house, but there's been a few shows like The Mandalorian or Stranger Things where we sit down, lights out, cell phones off, as a family, and we just have what I call is event television, where we experience it all together. And Stranger Things has always been that way for us as a family, season after season after season, huh?
Hmm.
Well, this is a spoiler, by the way. Do you think Elle is alive?
Yeah, I feel like she escaped, and Collie, she used her powers for the last time.
Well, I can't disagree with that. You heard it here first, folks. The world's greatest Stranger Things superfan believes that Elle is alive, and I take comfort in that. I have to agree. I think you're right. Emily, sweetheart. By the way, Emily is going to Anaheim for a competitive gymnastics meet, and she is very good, and she's very humble about it, but she's very competitive in gymnastics, and she goes to state and she goes to regionals, and I'm just excited for you this weekend, sweetie. So thank you. Love you.
Love you
Okay.
too.
All right. Thank you again. And really, this is what I love about great television, event television, and great movies is, you have an opportunity to share them with people you love, like I do with my family. And my kids don't enjoy everything I enjoy, and vice versa. Although I will sit through endless episodes on the Disney Plus channel of Kickin' It, or we'll watch a lot of different shows together. My youngest there, she loves watching Malcolm in the Middle, and I think the reruns hold up very well. But that's the thing about television and movies is being able to experience them together. Yes, it is possible to create memories watching TV shows and movies together. Yeah, it probably doesn't seem very heroic or very adventurous that your memories with family are not necessarily hiking or camping or things like that. But yeah, for a lot of the time, being in the home together and experiencing TV shows or movies together, it's special. It can be very special. And I'm just so grateful I've been able to just enjoy and kind of feed off of Amelie's wide-eyed wonder and love for a television show. When I was a kid, I think I was that way about the A-Team. And in looking back on it now, the A-Team is so cheesy. It didn't age well, or the Dukes of Hazzard for that matter. But to have a show that you care about, that you're passionate about, it's something I had as a kid, and it's kind of neat to relive it and see it in my own kids, that they put down their digital devices and they can actually pay attention to a really great quality show. But there's enough there as a gateway in terms of Stranger Things and where it was set. It brings up things for my wife and I who are Gen Xers, but it's also neat to see that particular era in the 80s, as it were, introduced to a younger crowd, and for it to resonate with them. So it's been an interesting bridge of generations, the way Stranger Things did bring, moms and dads and kids together on the same page to enjoy a great show, a flawed show. I'm not going to get into all the things I had problems with. It was flawed. It wasn't perfect, but few shows achieve perfection, right? And it doesn't matter. I think the sum of its parts is where I lie when it comes to Stranger Things. And it was blazingly original. It was really enjoyable. And it sewed itself up really nicely. I thought the finale crushed it in a lot of ways. So anyway, that's my thing on Stranger Things after 5 years. Thank you, Duffer Brothers. So anyway, I think the great thing about Stranger Things, like I said earlier, is that it has a lot of cross-generational appeal. And I don't know about your family, but my family really enjoyed watching Stranger Things. It was a topic of conversation. We're not Stranger Things nerds, but we definitely were aware of the show. We hated spoilers. We liked to catch it when it first came out. And thank you, Netflix, for entertaining us for 5 seasons. It was a blast. It had twists and turns. It wasn't always perfect. The critic in me is able to identify things I didn't agree with, things I thought were mistakes creatively. But for all its parts, for the sum of all of its parts, in the wider picture here, the world of television is better for Stranger Things having been in it than out of it. So I thought that was really clever. And so anyway, we'll see what Netflix can do next. There's supposed to be a spin-off show of Stranger Things that might come out in 2027 or the end of this year. I'm not sure. They haven't really officially announced anything, but we'll see where that goes. So because it's the first episode of the new year, I thought let's talk very briefly, and I'll give you a list very briefly of TV shows that I'm excited about coming out this year. Some of these are returning shows that already earned my loyalty, earned my trust creatively by entertaining me with giving me compelling characters, a compelling story, something that I could invest in, something I found interesting, or in some cases, a fascinating concept. I'm not going to name all the shows, but I'm going to name you some of the shows that are coming out or returning with additional seasons. And I'm excited to see them. I hope you are too. And that really, I'll just start with Idris Elba in the TV series Hijack on Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus. The first season was very good. So it's been 2 years since we've seen that first season. It was very good, very, very suspenseful. And I'm interested to see what they do in season 2. So anything with Idris Elba, I'm going to check it out because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the guy. I think he does great work. And so he's just, I think he should have been the next James Bond, but it was not to be. They're looking for a younger James Bond, but it doesn't matter. Idris Elba is always entertaining. I've never seen him not be entertaining in anything he's been in. So I'm on board for that. The second thing that I'm interested in seeing as it comes back is HBO's The Pit with Noah Wyle. So the first season, and I devoted an entire episode of the Fixate Binge podcast last year to the best way to watch The Pit. And I'm probably going to endorse that way again for season 2. I'm probably going to wait until all the episodes of season 2, The Pit, come out and then binge them as much as I can all at once, because that really represents a typical day, not a typical day, but it represents a particular day that the season 2 is going to focus on, as it did in season 1. And so I'm excited to see where they go in season 2. My oldest daughter is interested in pursuing a career in healthcare and medicine. And I won't even tell you the polysyllabic term for the thing she wants to be. I can't even barely pronounce it. It sounds like it's got a lot of consonants in a row. But there's an interest, a vocational interest on her end, of watching how people in high stress situations react to catastrophe or disaster or a health crisis. And so there's an added interest on her end. I just love the realism of the show. They even have real nurses acting on the show, which I think is fantastic. So I'm excited to see that. The other thing is admittedly a bit of a guilty pleasure, and that's the 5th and final season. So it's going to say goodbye, and I hope they end on a high note, of Amazon Prime's The Boys, which takes the superhero ethos or the superhero theme and just blended it with really dark, black satire, graphic, dark, get away with whatever they can get away with on cable TV. It is a guilty pleasure because it is so graphic. I can't watch it with my kids. I won't watch it with my kids. Nevertheless, I can't deny how excellent it was together. And Anthony Starr is the big bad, and he's so good. And there's other actors in it as well. And I just really enjoy it. I've enjoyed the 4 seasons. They're icky, they're gross, they're disgusting and eyebrow raising in terms of some things that I've seen on the show. Nevertheless, I can't deny that it's always been entertaining. And there's always been some sort of cultural or political satire infused in pretty much every episode. And so for that, I enjoy it. So if you want to judge me, but I liked the show. So I'll be sorry to see it go. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about briefly is a show on AMC Plus. And mostly the reason why I got into this show is because of where it's filmed. It's filmed in and around the Navajo Indian Reservation area of Monument Valley, which sits on the Arizona and Utah border, right? Which I've been to. I was able to complete a bucket list trip there with my wife about 4 years ago. And I've just loved the area. And then they created a show on AMC Plus called Dark Winds about an American Indian sheriff's department investigating crimes in the 70s, early 80s, and things like that, and different ways that the outside world or the civilized world or the non-reservation world imposes itself and influences events on the reservation. And so I've just loved it. I can't explain it for the same reason that I really liked Longmire, which came and went, and it was on Netflix. I really love Dark Winds. It's just really good. And for what it's worth, Robert Redford and George R. R. Martin, I think that's his name. Yeah, they produced the show. And in the first episode of season four, or no, the first episode of season three last year, Robert Redford and George R. R. Martin cameoed in it. And it was considered the last time Robert Redford appeared on camera before his death this past year. So that was kind of nice. So, what a great show. Always excited to see where they take it next. Great characters, great concept, great setting. It's just so nice to see Monument Valley as the ultimate backdrop for some of these great storylines. And Dark Winds, you can catch it on AMC Plus. I believe you can catch all three previous seasons right now on Netflix. So Netflix has this great arrangement with AMC. They'll show you Walking Dead, they've shown Better Call Saul, Better Breaking Bad, all the AMC Plus shows, they'll eventually be on Netflix. And so if you have to catch up, Netflix is a great starting point if you don't have an AMC Plus membership. The other show that I'm really interested in is Paradise. Now that show was interesting. It had a very interesting first season with a concept of a post-apocalyptic world, a post-apocalyptic America. The society has I'm kind of giving this away if you haven't started to watch it, but something very interesting happens, and they don't give it to you right away. You slowly realize it. And so I urge you, if you're not hooked on the first episode of season 1 of Paradise on Hulu, if you're not hooked after that first episode, then don't bother with it. But the reason why it's getting a season 2, I think, is because of the strength of season 1, but particularly the strength of that first pilot episode. It was such a mind, there's a mind and then you put the F word at the end. It's mind-blowing. That's a less profane way to put it. It's a mind-blowing concept. Hadn't seen that explored in any other show prior. And so it's going to be great. I think you're going to enjoy it. It had James Marsden. It's fantastic, and I can't wait to see where they go with it for season 2. It's very similar to Apple TV's Silo in concept. I hope I haven't given too much away there. Speaking of Apple TV, the next season 2 of Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, with Kurt Russell and his son, Wyatt Russell, playing a younger version of his own father, Kurt Russell. And that is kind of interstitial story tissue between the Godzilla and the King Kong movies, which we've been getting, which I think are done very, very well. They are done very, very well. So if you've enjoyed Kong Island, if you've enjoyed Kong versus Godzilla, you've enjoyed all of those things about the kaijus coming from the middle world area underneath the Earth's crust, Monarch Legacy of Monsters is great connective tissue between those movies because it has callbacks to events happening in the movies, which is greatly enjoyed. In the same way that you can watch maybe Loki, a Marvel TV series on Disney Plus, and it will reference things that happened in the Avengers movies and things like that. Well, that works here. And I really, really like Kurt Russell, and I actually really like Wyatt Russell. And they don't skimp at Apple TV on the special effects. So it's pretty seamless. When Godzilla shows up, when the other kaijus and monsters show up, it doesn't look like it's just bad CGI for TV and that they blow the budget on the movies. It looks like they're using the same team for the TV series that they use for the movies, and that's impressive to me. So don't sleep on Monarch Legacy of Monsters. It begins its second season this year. So if you haven't jumped in, season 1 is on Apple TV Plus right now. The other show I'm really excited about is a show that me and my son really like, and I'm not sure my wife and daughters are into it, but it's One Piece based on the popular anime, and it's going to be season 2 of the live-action One Piece. Season 1, which came out a couple years ago, was just so goofy and fun and conceptually original, and production values were fun. The casting seemed on point. I had a good time with it. It was very interesting. My son got into the anime because of the live action first season. And so I'm excited to see where they go with it for season 2. Apparently, they have endless stories they could tell. So I guess they'll make it until fans turn their backs on it or the ratings just aren't there. So it's a moneymaker. It's a global hit. So it's something to keep your eyes out for. One Piece was back for season 2. It'll drop later this year. And really briefly, now those are the returning shows that have already kind of earned my interest, earned my enthusiasm to see what they do next. I hope all of them stick the landing. I hope they don't, try and reinvent the wheel. I hope you just bring back everything that was working in the season before, just replicate it and add to it and just continue being amazing. But there are some new shows which I'm cautiously optimistic about. And one of those is Wonder Man on Disney Plus, which is part of MCU. And I won't get into that because I don't want to spend too much time on that. It looks interesting. The trailer looks good. Excited to see where they go with it. The other thing is A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Speaking of George R.R. Martin, he has produced this. It takes place about 100 years before the events of Game of Thrones. Of course, HBO Max is on this. And from what I can see, it looks almost like a family-friendlier version of Game of Thrones with a knight and his page or his squire. And it looks like kind of a rags to riches underdog type concept, which looks fun. But again, it's HBO, and again, it's Game of Thrones, so be careful out there if you're going to sit down with kids and watch this. There's probably going to be a content problem at some point because Game of Thrones is not afraid to show you content that will make you question why you bothered to put it on in front of your kids. Anyway, the other thing I want to talk to you about that I just stumbled upon recently is on Netflix. It's called His and Hers, starring Tessa Thompson and John Bernthal. And again, like Idris Elba, I'm a big John Bernthal fan. Anything he's in, I will watch it. I will watch it. He's really, really intense. Of course, he's the Punisher in the TV series. He's such a great actor. He's so intense. He's very, very good as a co-star in The Bear. He's very good in that. So, I'm excited to see where that show goes. Apparently, the concept is pretty nuts. So I can't wait to see that. And the other thing, and I'm very cautiously optimistic about this one because I'm not so sure they should have done this, is Peacock is putting out a miniseries, a TV series of the 1989 classic, The Burbs, except this is with a different family, but it looks really darkly comedic. And I really love The Burbs film. My former co-host, it was his all-time favorite film. I think that one and The Matrix were his all-time 2 favorite films. The Burbs for Peacock looks interesting, looks fun, and I'd like to be able to see it in a modern setting with some of the same tropes, same themes. Looks good. Anyway, okay. I do want to give you really, really quickly, because I know this feels like a big long list, but I do want to get this all out there because we'll circle back to some of these and talk about them at length throughout the year. But I want to give you, because I talk a lot about horror, and I probably give more attention to the horror genre than any other genre throughout the year, I do want to tell you about 10 horror films that I think are going to be ones to watch. A lot of them have already generated quite a lot of buzz, so I don't think any of these are going to fly under many radars. But let me just jump in here. The first thing I want to talk to you about that's coming out later this month is 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. And that is, of course, a continuation from 28 Years Later that came out last year. But this is 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Ralph Fiennes features prominently throughout this film, and it looks like it's a continuation of a new trilogy that looks very, very interesting. So Alex Garland, who wrote the first 28 Days Later, and then, of course, wrote 28 Years Later, has also written 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, and it looks interesting. So I'm excited to see where they take the zombie genre with this. The other film is directed by Sam Raimi, which is a survivor thriller. It's called Send Help, and it's about a boss and his underappreciated employee stranded on an island after a plane crash. That's what the trailer tells us. Looks interesting. The other one that I want to see is Zach Cregger, who scared the crap out of us in weapons this past year, is doing Resident Evil. So he's going to do his take on the video game franchise Resident Evil. And that's either going to be a huge miss or it's going to bring a lot of people back to the Resident Evil franchise. It could kick off a completely different franchise of films. So we'll see. The other one is directed by James Watkins, and it's written by Mike Flanagan. It takes place in the DCU, and that is Clayface, which, if you know your Batman lore, you know that Clayface is one of the prime villains in the Batman universe. And so they're making a Clayface film, and it looks to be a horror film, which looks very good. And James Watkins, if that name doesn't strike you, he did a film in 2024 called Speak No Evil, and that was actually very, very good, directed very good. So we'll see what he can do with Clayface. But you've got Mike Flanagan, who I love, and you've got James Watkins, who has already shown that he can handle horror. They're tackling Clayface. Could be a sleeper hit in 2026. The other one has got Adam Scott from Severance, and he looks to be in a film called Hokum, which I think comes out in February. The trailer looks chilling and terrifying, and it might just be the horror film of the year to check out. Another film that just, it created a lot of buzz at the festival circuit was a film called Primate, about a pet chimpanzee that runs amok. And if you know anything about what chimpanzees can do when they start running amok, it should chill you to the bone. The other one, of course, is Ready or Not 2. I don't know too much about this, except that the main star from Ready or Not returns, and I'm excited to see where they go with this one. It's already got a very good trailer, so I'm kind of hooked. The other one is Evil Dead Burn. Now, Sam Raimi is not returning for this one. It's a different director, but Evil Dead Burn, and it's all within the Sam Raimi Evil Dead universe. And so the last one, Evil Dead Rise, was the last one, but Evil Dead Rise was horrifying. Horrifying. Buckets of blood. So good, but so horrifying that I think Evil Dead Burn, anytime there's a new Evil Dead movie out there, Sam Raimi's producing it. So it's got his watchful eye on it. I think it's going to be very, very good. I don't know if Bruce Campbell comes back for it. I doubt he does, although I'd love to see a cameo. The other one is the one that I've been anticipating for a couple years, and that's by Steven Spielberg. He returns to his UFO, unidentified aerial phenomenon roots, which he explored in E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He's now got one called Disclosure Day. I haven't been too blown away by the trailer, but I think it's a little bit too early to judge a film by its trailer, because clearly the trailer is just going to show you snippets and bits, and which I appreciate. It's not giving everything away, which I hate that when trailers do this. So it looks like it's well cast, and anytime Spielberg is going to talk about or present anything with UFOs or aliens or any of that, buckle up. It's going to be an original ride, and so I'm excited to see that. And then at the end of the year, when it's December, we're going to get Violent Night 2. And David Harbour, who played the violent Santa Claus in the first film a few years ago, returns to play good old Saint Nick all over again. And so I'm very, very excited to see that. That will be a lot of fun. And those are my top 10 horror films coming out in 2026. And I actually think that when the dust settles at the end of the year and I look back on the best horror films of 2026, I have a feeling there's going to be half a dozen films that slid in under the radar. I had no idea they would be anything to talk about, but they just blew audiences away and became runaway hits. So that certainly happened in 2025. So no reason to believe that won't happen in 2026. So if you like horror, continue listening to this podcast. I see a lot of horror. I discuss a lot of horror. I review a lot of horror. And sometimes when I'm really lucky, as I was last year, I'll have the director, screenwriter, and actor in some of those horror films as guests on this podcast. That was certainly the case of Marshmallow with director Daniel Del Purgatorio, who was the director of this, and his producer Todd Friedman. And then I also had the writer and director of The Twin, which was on Shudder, J.C. Doller, also on this podcast. So cross your fingers. Maybe we'll have some of these creatives on this podcast this year. Now I want to close up with something real quick. I also want to talk really briefly, very briefly, about some films that I think are the most anticipated films of 2026. You have heard of these films. If you love movies, if you love cinema, you must be living in a cave if you haven't heard that these particular films are going to come out this year. I think these are the films that are going to make and break production studios. A lot of anticipation is riding on these films. These are the tentpole films you hear about where a production studio is like, we are going to dump 200 million and we're going to just put it into this film's budget and let's hope the audience is there. These are the types of films that are going to make or break studios. A lot is riding on these. These are the films that are keeping producers, directors, publicists, agents awake at night before they actually get released to the public, okay? Because a lot of hope is riding on these. Of course, I'm going to list them in no particular order of when they'll be released. I won't tell you when they're being released because release dates tend to fluctuate, but everyone, I think, on planet Earth who loves movies is anticipating Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. We've already had a few teaser trailers for that. It looks really good. I had one of the actors who was in the film on this podcast a couple months ago, and all that does is just build interest and excitement. So I'm excited to see that on the biggest screen I can get, and that, of course, would be IMAX. The next film is Dune 3, or Dune Messiah, with Timothée Chalamet returning as Paul Atreides, or Muad'Dib, and you have Denis Villeneuve, who is the director of that. Anytime Denis Villeneuve handles sci-fi, it is as exciting to me as Spielberg handling sci-fi. It's always going to be good. I think Denis Villeneuve is our greatest living sci-fi film director alive now. And I'm sorry, Sir Ridley Scott, and I'm sorry, Steven Spielberg, but Denis Villeneuve has already shown he can handle it. And so I'm excited to see how he closes out Frank Herbert's Dune series with The Messiah. So who knows? I mean, if Timothée Chalamet doesn't get an Academy Award for, I don't know, whatever film he's in now, see, every year it looks like he's trying to get one. I think he would at least get one for doing these Dune movies. He's been fantastic in the first two, and I have no reason to believe he won't be fantastic in the third one. The other film, speaking of Sir Ridley Scott, is The Dog Stars, which is a sci-fi concept. So I might, at the end of the year, be changing my mind and saying, wait a minute, it's Ridley Scott. He's now our greatest living sci-fi director all over again. Forget what I said about Denis Villeneuve. It's Ridley Scott again. But The Dog Stars sounds very interesting, like a post-apocalyptic, interesting concept, very sci-fi laden. This is the same Ridley Scott who made The Martian, which many may argue is the greatest conceptually realistic sci-fi film we've ever had in the last 20 years, which that's a good argument to make because it's hard to argue against it, really. Another film is Project Hail Mary with Ryan Gosling in it. Looks very interesting, very sci-fi-esque. I think Ryan Gosling is probably our most interesting action film star to watch today. Sorry, Tom Cruise. I think he's got it. Another film, speaking of Tom Cruise, is Inarritu, who made The Revenant, and he's made Birdman. He is making a film called Digger, and what it's about is it's a bit shrouded in mystery. Not much is known about it. It stars Tom Cruise, but if you know anything about Inarritu's films, he is very big on verisimilitude, which is a fancy word for make it as realistic as possible. He is prone to shooting in long, brilliant takes of his film. I'm excited to see what he does with this one, and I really think Tom Cruise is such a great actor. He's so watchable on screen. You've got a great director and a great actor. I think lightning is going to strike. I really do. Speaking of great directors with great content, Greta Gerwig's Narnia, the first of those films, comes out. I suspect that whether we get more Narnia films from Greta Gerwig depends entirely on how the first film is received. And so this is Greta Gerwig, who handled Barbie very well. Very, very well. Greta Gerwig's an extremely talented director, and I'm excited to see what she does with Narnia. The other one is Spider-Man Brand New Day. We're going to get another Spider-Man film with Tom Holland, which I think is fantastic. My kids love Tom Holland. My youngest loves Tom Holland. My youngest loves Spider-Man because of Tom Holland, because he's just so genuinely Peter Parker in it. So I'm excited to see where they come with that. The other one is The Mandalorian and Grogu. So I'm excited to see that. That will be on the big screen. So we'll finally get to see, after several seasons of The Mandalorian, we'll finally get to see within a wider Star Wars context in the galaxy on the big screen, we'll get to see The Mandalorian and Grogu. And I hope it's every bit as enjoyable as the TV series has been. And last but not least, Pixar's Toy Story 5. A lot of people have questioned, what is the efficacy of continually bringing back these Toy Story films? And I think it all comes down to, if it's a great story, if the concept is there and the story is, demanding to be told, why wouldn't they just continue to make them? I thought after Toy Story 3 they were done. And then I saw Toy Story 4 and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Well, Toy Story 5 also has a very interesting concept. It's going to deal with kids not playing with toys, kids on digital devices rather than playing with physical toys, and the psychological effect this has on the toys themselves, which I think is a gateway to explore wider themes of human connection and our relationships with others, maybe getting off the internet more, maybe turning off a podcast and interacting in the real world is what maybe the overarching theme or message of that movie might be trying to tell us. So there's that. Anyway, these wonderful films, great TV shows, returning TV shows, brand new TV shows, great new films on the horizon for 2026. I'm excited about going back to the movies. I'm excited for sitting down and watching some great television again. And again, this is opportunities to spend time with family. My oldest daughter, she loves horror films, so we'll go watch horror films. My son loves action films. We'll go watch action films together. Whatever it takes to spend time with your kids doing things that they enjoy to do, I urge you to do that. This really does come back to family and sharing experiences together. And maybe your budget doesn't allow you to go to Hawaii, to go to Disneyland every 6 months, or to go to the concert, or to go to you don't live close enough to the beach, or to buy all the camping gear to go camping. And maybe your budget is, I can buy us a couple bags of microwavable popcorn. I can buy us some Twizzlers, and I can stream the movie from home, or we can watch the TV series here at the house. What do you say? I pick up some pizza from Domino's. Budget's a little bit tight. You can still have a good, memorable time with your family, but try to diversify it. Try to mix it up a little bit. But ultimately, I think the thing that makes these viewing experiences matter is because the stories are so compelling. They're going to tell us things about ourselves, or maybe we'll see ourselves in these characters. Anyway, I don't want to wax too poetic, but again, thank you for being a part of this podcast. Thank you for being here. Again, I'm going to close with that Pablo Picasso quote. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away, which is ironic, given that nobody just gives away Pablo Picasso paintings. They sell for hundreds of millions of dollars. But I like what he was trying to go for there. I think the overarching theme is what matters most. Be good to yourself in 2026. There's a lot of negative things out there. I'm getting swept up with a lot of negative TV media heads talking about how the world is coming to an end. There are things that my country is doing that I don't agree with. There's a lot of content creators that thrive and make a business off of being upset and outraged. And yeah, there's a space for that. You can be outraged about certain things. But I urge you to come up for air. I'm saying this to myself. Come up for air. Come up for air. Take a break. Make sure that you make time for yourself. Find something you love doing to block out all the noise and be quiet for a little bit. Me, it's crazy, but I think I need to listen to more Enya in 2026 to be a kinder, gentler version of myself, as it were. Anyway, I don't want to go on too much longer. I'm excited you're here. I'm excited for a brand new year of podcasting, and I wish you all the best for 2026. Next week, I've got a guest. I'm excited about this guest. I'm really looking forward to this guest. He's been in some films that you will have either seen or recognized or have heard of, so I'm excited for that. Anyway, have a great week. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Take care.